Some time ago, after one of the weekly meetings of my speaking club, a new participant shared with me her first experience with the session. She liked the fact that participants were divided into groups and everybody would take turns sharing thoughts on the topic of the day. She compared taking turns to counting and said, "Now I know why your club is called Every Speaker Counts." For me, this was an interesting discovery of the secondary meaning of the name that I had chosen for my website, blog, and the speaking club. But I have to admit that at the time, this story made me wonder if the primary meaning that I had in mind for Every Speaker Counts was clear enough. And I guess the difference would be coming from the multiple meanings of the word count. By the way, if you'd like to join my speaking club, it's absolutely free. You can sign up on my website, Every Speaker Counts. I will leave the link in the description box. You can also find it in the About section on my channel. And speaking of subscription, please hit the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it yet. I'd really appreciate it. English is full of words with multiple meanings. Most of the time, the correct meaning is clear from the context, but sometimes this can create confusion, and this may be particularly the case in a situation where the recipient of the message knows one meaning of the word but is not aware of another one. In this video, I selected 10 examples of words with multiple meanings that may potentially cause confusion. This will be just a small snapshot because, as I said earlier, English vocabulary is full of such cases. I also won't talk about all potential meanings of these words. For that, you can check the dictionary. My goal here is to discuss the most common meanings. The word count can be a noun or a verb. One of its meanings is, as a noun, the total number of something, and as a verb, an act of determining this number. It can also be an act of reciting numbers in ascending order, like 1, 2, 3, and so on. And this is how my new speaking club participant interpreted the verb count in Every Speaker Counts. But another use of the word count is as a verb that means to take into account or include. And this is the meaning that I wanted to come across from the name Every Speaker Counts. In other words, my intention was to say that every speaker matters. Every speaker is important. And all these in the context of language learning and including all non-native English speakers with a variety of accents and proficiency levels. Every speaker counts, no matter what their accent and level is. Let's look at some examples. The count of the students in the classroom exceeded the teacher's expectations. She asked me to count the number of books on the shelf to ensure we hadn't missed any. In a race against time, every minute counts when trying to meet a deadline. Okay, let's move on to the next word, which is bank. A bank can be a financial institution where money is deposited, saved, or borrowed. I think most people are familiar with this meaning, but bank can also mean the side of a river, lake, or a street. Let's look at some examples. My credit card got stolen. I need to call my bank and let them know. I need to go to the bank to get some cash. The children enjoyed picnicking by the bank of the river. The shops on the east bank of the street were bustling with activity while the west bank remained quiet and serene. The next word is book. I think it's safe to assume that pretty much everyone who speaks at least some English knows that as a noun, a book is a collection of written or printed pages bound together, often with a cover. For example, she has so many books in her house. But the word book can also serve as a verb. To book something means to reserve or arrange for something, such as a ticket or a room. For example, I'm gonna travel to Paris in the summer and I booked my hotel there 6 months in advance. Let's look at a couple of more examples. I enjoy reading a good book before I go to sleep. I will book a table at the restaurant for Friday night. Another word that has a double meaning is pretty. Pretty can be an adjective, and as such, it means good looking. For example, you have a pretty dress. But it can also be an adverb describing an adjective. For example, this painting is pretty ugly. This second example can be particularly confusing because at first glance, it looks like you have two opposite words next to each other, pretty and ugly. But here, pretty is used to intensify the adjective ugly, and it doesn't mean good looking. Other words we can use instead are fairly, moderately, relatively, and quite. Let's look at a couple of more examples. Your house is so pretty. The sunset painted the sky in pretty hues of pink and orange. Her daughter is pretty smart. She played the piano pretty well considering she had only started lessons a month ago. Okay, let's move on to the next word, tie. A tie, used as a noun, is a long, narrow piece of fabric worn around the neck in formal attire. A tie, used as a noun, also refers to a situation in a competition where both teams or competitors have the same score or result, resulting in a draw or deadlock. But tie can also be a verb, and as a verb, it means to attach or fasten something together, as in tie the shoelaces. Let's look at some examples. He wore a silk tie with a subtle pattern to the formal event. The soccer match ended in a tie, with both teams scoring 2 goals each. I need to tie my shoelaces before we go for a walk. She will tie the ribbon around the gift box to make it look more presentable. The next word on my list is bear. A bear is a large mammal with thick fur and a heavy build. Let me know in the comments if you have ever seen a bear in real life. But bear can also be a verb, and as a verb, it means to tolerate or endure something. Here are some examples. The bear lumbered through the forest in search of food. My favorite stuffed animal as a child was a bear named Teddy. Despite the difficulty, he chose to bear the burden of caring for his sick parents, knowing it was his responsibility. She couldn't bear the thought of leaving her beloved pet behind when she moved. I think everyone knows the most common meaning of the next word on my list. This word is spring. Spring is the name of one of the 4 seasons, the one that comes after the winter and before the summer. Spring as a noun also has another meaning, a coiled or bent piece of metal that returns to its shape when pushed or pulled. Spring can also act as an adjective, like in spring break, for example. But keep in mind that in English, nouns in general can be used as adjectives describing other nouns. Spring can also be a verb, and as a verb, it means to jump or leap, as in spring into action. And here are some examples. I'm gonna visit my grandparents during the spring break. By the way, here spring plays the role of an adjective describing the other noun, break. The spring this year is so rainy. He accidentally released the spring, causing it to unwind. She had to spring into action when she heard the alarm, rushing to evacuate the building. The next word on my list is break. Break can be a noun or a verb. As a noun, a break means a temporary interruption of an activity or a process. As a verb, it has several meanings: to separate into pieces and to violate a law or rule. And of course, it's always easier to understand when we look at examples, so here they are. The hikers took a short break to rest and enjoy the scenic view from the mountaintop. He accidentally dropped the vase, causing it to break into several pieces on the floor. Although she has been accused, she claims she hasn't broken the law. The next word on my list for today is mean. Mean can be an adjective, a noun, or a verb. In its role as an adjective, it describes a person who is rude, unkind, or unfair. It can also describe something that is in the middle position or average. In this case, you can use mean as a noun as well. You can see such descriptions in math or scientific articles, studies, and reports. As a verb, mean conveys a particular idea, interpretation, or significance. You can use it to ask another person for clarification if you didn't understand what they have told you. You can also use it to describe the meaning of a particular word or idea. Let's look at a few examples. He's such a mean person. The mean score in the test was 85%. The statistical mean of the dataset was calculated to be 25. I don't know what you mean by that. I don't understand this word. What does it mean? And the last word for today is jam. Jam can be a noun or a verb. One of its meanings as a noun is a sweet spread made from fruit. You can also use it as a noun to describe a situation in which things are tightly crowded together and unable to move freely. As a verb, it means to get stuck or to squeeze or pack tightly into a confined space. You can also use it in music to describe people playing together while improvising, like for example in jazz. Let's look at these sentences. I love this strawberry jam because it's not too sweet. I'm sorry I'm late for class. The traffic jam on the highway was vicious. I jammed my finger in the door and now it's bruised and swollen. We used to stay late at night and jam together on our guitars. It's also worth mentioning that verbs in English often have different meanings when they are a part of phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are idiomatic phrases formed as a combination of a verb with another element, such as an adverb or a preposition. In this video, however, I focus rather on the different meanings of the words themselves and not on when they're a part of a phrasal verb. Let me know in the comments if there is any other word that you'd like me to talk about. If you like this video, remember to click on the like button and share it with your friends. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.